All right, let's talk about energy. Have you ever really stopped to think about how your body generates the power for, well, everything you do? From a lightning-fast sprint to a long, slow jog, there is this incredible power grid working inside you. Today, we're going to plug in and figure out exactly how it all works.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The kind of energy you need for an explosive, all-out punch is wildly different from the energy you need to run a marathon for hours. And yet, our bodies can somehow pull off both. So what's the secret? Well, it lies in a series of absolutely brilliant overlapping energy systems.
So here's our game plan. We're going to start with the fuel of life, a little molecule called ATP. Then, we'll meet the three engines that your body uses to make it. We'll look at how you power sprints, how to measure your endurance, and finally, what actually determines your personal potential. Ready? Let's dive in.
Okay, first things first. Before we can get into the really cool stuff about the body's engines, we have to understand the fuel they all run on. It's the foundation for everything else.
So meet ATP. You can think of this molecule as the universal energy currency for your body. It's basically cash for your cells. Every single muscle twitch, every heartbeat, every thought you have, it's all paid for with ATP. When your body needs to spend energy, it just breaks off a piece of an ATP molecule, and that release of energy is what powers the action. Now this whole cycle, taking the food you eat to create ATP and then using that ATP to power everything you do, all of that falls under the big umbrella of metabolism. We hear that word thrown around all the time, right? Well, this is what it really means, just the sum of all the chemical reactions that are keeping you alive and moving.
And your metabolism really has two sides of the same coin. On one side, you've got catabolism. This is the demolition crew. It breaks down bigger molecules, like the food you eat, to release energy and make that precious ATP. On the other side, you've got anabolism. This is the construction crew. It uses the energy from ATP to build things up, like creating new muscle tissue after a good workout. Okay, so now that we get the fuel, ATP, let's meet the three completely distinct power plants, or engines, that your body uses to produce it. This is where it gets really interesting.
And here they are, the phosphagen, the glycolytic, and the oxidative systems. Now to make this super easy, just think of them like this. The phosphagen system, that's your instant-on emergency generator. The glycolytic system is like a fast-burning jet engine, and the oxidative system, that's your main power station, just humming along, built for the long haul.
This chart just lays it all out so perfectly. Look at the trade-offs here. The phosphagen system gives you absolute maximum intensity, but it's gone in less than 10 seconds. The glycolytic system can keep you going at a high intensity for up to 2 minutes. And for pretty much anything longer than that, the big oxidative system takes over. And here's the key difference. Notice the first two are anaerobic. That means they don't need oxygen, which is their secret to being so fast. The oxidative system, on the other hand, is aerobic. It requires oxygen, making it slower to get going but incredibly efficient. So let's zoom in on that pure explosive power. We're going to take a closer look at those first two anaerobic systems, the real powerhouses that fuel your sprints, your jumps, and all those all-out short bursts of effort.
So how does that emergency generator actually work? Well, its secret is speed. It's so fast because it doesn't have to waste time breaking down carbs or fats. It uses tiny amounts of ATP and another molecule called creatine phosphate that are already sitting there stored right inside the muscle, just waiting to be used. This is what powers a 100-meter dash or a single heavy deadlift. But here's the catch. It's a tiny, tiny fuel tank. It's totally empty in under 10 seconds. And to get a full refuel, that takes several minutes of rest.
Now, right as that phosphagen system starts to sputter out, the glycolytic system seamlessly ramps up. This is your fast burner. It's the engine that kicks in for things like a tough 400-meter sprint or a grueling CrossFit workout. And it works by rapidly breaking down sugar, glucose, without needing any oxygen.
And this is where a very famous and very misunderstood character enters the scene: lactic acid. When this system is running at full throttle without oxygen, it produces lactate. And yeah, it's associated with that burn you feel in your muscles. But get this, it's not just some useless waste product. Your body is smart. It can actually shuttle that lactate to other muscles, and even your heart, to be used as more fuel.
Okay, so we've covered the sprinters. Now let's completely shift gears and talk about the marathon runners. It's time to dive into the oxidative system, your true endurance engine, and figure out how we can actually measure its incredible capacity.
This system is basically your body's default setting. In fact, it's providing your energy right now as you're watching this. It all happens inside those famous powerhouses of the cell, the mitochondria.
In there, it uses oxygen to slowly but surely burn through carbohydrates and fats to produce a massive, steady supply of ATP. It's the engine that powers you through a long jog, a bike ride, pretty much any sustained activity.
So if this big endurance engine runs on oxygen, how do we measure its horsepower? Well, the answer is VO2 max. It is the gold standard, the single best measurement of your aerobic fitness. It tells us the absolute maximum amount of oxygen your body can take in, transport through your blood, and actually use to produce energy when you're going all out.
Now, the unit of measurement, ml per kilogram per minute, might look a little complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It just stands for the milliliters of oxygen you use for every kilogram of your body weight every single minute. The bottom line is, a higher number means you've got a bigger, more efficient aerobic engine. And this shows just how huge the difference between people can be. An average, untrained person might have a VO2 max somewhere around 40, but an elite marathon runner? Oh, their aerobic engine is so finely tuned they can have a VO2 max of 80, or maybe even higher. Think about that. They are literally twice as efficient at using oxygen to fuel their muscles. That's just incredible. So this all leads to a pretty obvious question, right? What makes one person's engine so much more powerful than another's? Let's break down the key factors that actually determine your VO2 max. First up, age. Yeah, it's a big one. For most of us, our aerobic potential peaks in our late teens or early 20s. Then, somewhere around age 30, it usually begins a slow, steady decline, something like 1% per year. That's just due to natural changes in our heart and muscles over time. So, beyond age, what else is at play? Well, sex is a factor. On average, males tend to have a higher VO2 max, and that's mainly because of things like having larger lungs and more of that oxygen-carrying stuff in our blood called hemoglobin. Your body composition is also a huge deal. Simply put, more muscle means more tissue that can actually use oxygen. But the single most important variable, the one you can actually control, is your fitness level. Consistent endurance training is the absolute best way to improve your VO2 max. So ultimately, it really comes down to this. Your genetics might set the ceiling for your potential, but it's your training that decides how close you actually get to that ceiling. You've got an emergency generator, a fast burner, and a main power station inside you. Understanding how they all work together is the first step. The next is deciding how are you going to fuel your engines.